Yeah, black and white like a panda. Need a girl with a booty from Atlanta. Grab a camera, everybody at my shows act like the cops got a gun in them. Hands up, I feel like Drake did on ransom. Young, rich, and handsome, hotline bling dancing. Taking these chances, remix these songs from rappers. Funny thing is you can't understand.
What's up, slackers? Welcome to Book Cheats. Today we'll be talking about To Kill a Mockingbird Chapter 2. Let's get right into the chapter. So at the beginning of this chapter, it's set towards the end of the summer, where we started the last chapter. And at the end of the summer, Dill leaves and he ends up going home back to where his mom lives in Mississippi. Scout says, and if you remember, Scout's the narrator from the last chapter, and she'll be the narrator throughout the whole book. At this time, she's about 6 years old. But anyway, Scout says that she really missed Dill, but she was also excited to start school. This would be her first year of school, and she'd be starting the first grade. On the first day of school, her brother Jem decided to walk her to school. As Jem and Scout were walking to school, Jem stopped Scout, and he set up some rules for them while they were at school. Jem told Scout that Scout was not to talk to him while they were at school. He told Scout that she was to act like they weren't even related and didn't even know each other. He told Scout that when they were at home, they would still be siblings and they'd still have the same relationship, but while they were at school, they would be strangers. He told Scout that Scout was to stay with the first graders and he would hang out with the fifth graders. Scout and Jem arrive at school, and Scout says that school was much different than she had expected. Scout's first grade teacher's name was Miss Caroline Fisher. And Scout at first kind of summarizes and says that she pretty much got into trouble that day. Scout says that Miss Caroline was from Northern Alabama, and Northern Alabama at this time was notorious for liquor, steel mills, and a rowdy bunch of people. Scout said that on her first day of school, Miss Caroline got in front of the class and read a story about cats. After Miss Caroline finished the story about cats, she wrote the alphabet on the board. Miss Caroline looked around the room, who she was going to call to the front to make a fool out of, because she wanted to show that she was the teacher and that she had something to teach them. And because most of the first graders in the class had actually failed the year before, Miss Caroline called Scout to the front of the room. Miss Caroline asked Scout to read the alphabet, which Scout read super easy. Miss Caroline asked Scout to read aloud, and Scout read with ease, with almost an adult-like reading level. Miss Caroline was visibly irritated, and she told Scout to tell her father Atticus to stop teaching her how to read. I don't know why, but Miss Caroline reminds me of CNN.
Joshua, come here right now. Stick out your hand. You will not think for yourself, and you will not use Google search.
Yes, ma'am.
Sit back down.
Scout told Miss Caroline that Atticus had never taught her to read. Miss Caroline asked where she had learned to read then. Scout just repeated what her brother Jem would tease her about, and she said that her brother Jem said that she was born from a different family, and that her real last name was Bullfinch, making her full name Jean Louise Bullfinch. Miss Caroline thought that Scout was making fun of her, and Scout got into trouble. Scout felt confused for being in trouble because she was just repeating what her brother had told her. Scout tried to think back to when she learned how to read, and Scout said that she couldn't remember ever learning when to read. She said that reading almost felt like breathing, like she had always known how to do it. Recess came around, and Scout's brother Jem came around discreetly to check on Scout. Jem asked Scout how her first day was going, and Scout told him what happened. Jem told Scout that Miss Caroline was trying a new teaching method called the Dewey Decimal System, and that soon the whole school would be using the Dewey Decimal System. At this point, Scout just wanted to go home. The rest of the day, Miss Caroline would show the kids cards that had words written on them, and she would repeat them out loud, and the children were to remain silent. Scout was so bored that she started to write a letter to Dill. As she was writing this letter to Dill, Miss Caroline came around again, and Scout got in trouble again for being too smart for the class. I don't know what it is, but Miss Caroline really reminds me of Professor Umbridge.
Good morning, children.
Good afternoon.
That she wasn't to learn how to write until the third grade. Scout said that she had learned how to write from their maid, Capernia. She said that Calpurnia would give her writing tasks whenever she wanted Scout out of her hair. This sounds like how I am with Brittany when we're trying to get ready for something.
Hey babe, how does my makeup look?
It doesn't really match your outfit, you know. I'd probably redo the eyeshadow.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Okay.
And that if Scout did good enough, that Calpurnia would give her a treat or something. Lunchtime came around, and Miss Caroline went down the rows inspecting all the children's lunches. When Miss Caroline came to a child named Walter Cunningham, Walter didn't have any lunch. She told Walter that she would give him a quarter to buy lunch today, and that he was to bring a quarter tomorrow to pay her back with. Walter refused to take any of the money. Miss Caroline continued to try to give Walter the money, and Walter continued to refuse the money. One of the kids whispered to Scout, asking Scout to defend Walter. Scout stood up and politely said, Miss Caroline? Miss Caroline said, "What is it, Jean Louise?" Scout, trying to help, said, "Miss Caroline, he's a Cunningham." And then Scout sat back down. All of the kids understood what Scout was trying to say because the Cunninghams were a notoriously poor family in their town. Miss Caroline asked for Scout to clarify what she was talking about. Scout emphasized that he's a Cunningham. She said the Cunninghams don't accept anything they can't pay for. She told Miss Caroline that the Cunninghams don't have much, but they get by just fine. Scout had known about the Cunningham family because her father Atticus had done business with Walter's father. Walter's father wasn't able to pay Atticus, but over the next couple months after he had gotten Atticus's legal services, he would drop by crops and food and firewood until he had more than paid off the debt that he had to Atticus. Scout says that a lot of professionals in town actually did this. Because of the Depression, a lot of the farmers were really poor and couldn't afford to pay for services. Scout made a last effort to try to best explain the situation to Miss Caroline, and she told Miss Caroline that the Cunninghams don't have a quarter in their house and that Miss Caroline can't use any firewood. Miss Caroline was fuming and grabbed Scout by the ear and had her put her hand out flat in front of the room. Scout said that she thought Miss Cunningham was going to spit in her hand and shake hands to make some sort of deal, because that's the only situation she had ever seen anybody stick their hand out. Miss Cunningham pulled out a ruler and struck Scout several times and made her go into the corner for the rest of the day. The other kids in the class began to erupt in laughter, and the 6th grade teacher, Miss Blout, came into the room complaining about all the noise. Scout was the last to leave the classroom that day, and as she left, she saw Miss Caroline bury her head into her hands, and she said that she would have felt sorry for Miss Caroline, but because of all the stuff that had happened, she didn't feel sorry at all. I'm sure because Scout was just trying to help, and the teacher was too prideful to understand, Scout probably felt like this. And that concludes the chapter. Thanks so much for watching Book Cheats. Please leave a like and subscribe. Check out my website for more summaries. Follow me on Twitter. If you have any questions from your homework, please leave a comment down below. You guys have an awesome day and slack on.
Every song is the anthem, they yelling hot shit like country grandma. Futuristic been killing, I'm from the desert, I don't like chilling. Made $500,000 off from my building, treat these women just like dentists, no feeling. They don't really wanna get into it, every time I do it, it's fluent, it's moving. Look at the views I get, I leave you ruined, you foolish, you stupid. Look at the coolest kid, how I maneuver through it, I'm cool to look at the duties, feel like Call of Duty, Uzi pointed.